Alright, let's talk about why I didn't want to start using fountain pens in the first place. What is up, my pen friends and paper lovers? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Devin, and we're going to talk about my hesitations towards fountain pens when I first was introduced to the hobby about a year ago. When I started posting stationery related videos here on my channel, I really started to get to know the rest of the community that was out there. So I came across one of Boho Berry's videos. I can't exactly recall which video it was that I was watching, but I kind of was just binging a bunch of her videos at that time. She had mentioned fountain pens a couple of times, and then I watched her fountain pen collection video. I thought to myself, well, that's cool, but that's not really what I'm watching these videos for. I was really into her bullet journaling videos and just overall stationery inspiration. Then I came across the Goulet Pen Company's channel, and that I think is what really started the fire for what my fountain pen collection and interest looks like today. One of the things that stopped me from trying fountain pens earlier on is the fact that they seemed so complicated. All I knew at that time were pens like this, where you click and then you start to write, and then once you finish that ink, you could take out the cartridge here and just pop a new one in. Just generally speaking, these are the types of pens that I grew up with, so I felt very content exploring what was out there in terms of gel pens, erasable pens, and all of that goodness right there. But when I saw videos about fountain pens, it just seemed like there were so many components to keep in mind and to be aware of, which is just strikingly different from something like a gel pen or a ballpoint pen. If you wanted to change like the inks, then you would have to flush out your pen, and that seemed like a chore in itself. I had just developed this really strong assumption that this was way too complicated for me, and having something where you could just click and then start writing, that was better, because then I could get straight to journaling and creating. The second reason why I didn't want to start using fountain pens is somewhat related to the first reason I just shared, but I also thought to myself, because there are so many different parts to a fountain pen, I was really nervous that I was going to ruin it. The whole idea of having to flush out my fountain pen and do it thoroughly enough so that I could change the ink in the pen was like this foreign concept to me, because again, with just a regular pen, I could swap out the ink cartridge and the tip goes along with it. So I just toss it and then put in a new cartridge and I would be ready to go. But for something like a fountain pen, it's a little bit more labor intensive. That might be a little over dramatic, but that's what was going on in my head in the time. It just seemed like so much work. I think that was probably my biggest fear going into learning more about fountain pens, was like, they're cool, I'm interested, but I'm afraid I'm going to ruin it. The whole idea of disassembly and reassembly was very intimidating to me, and I think TWSBI is a great example of this, because I remember looking at the TWSBI Eco, I just didn't want to have to take it apart if I needed to be cleaning certain areas that you couldn't get to if you were just, twisting and flushing it out. Ironically, now I have 3 TWSBI pens. One of the beliefs that TWSBI has is that you should be very hands-on with your fountain pen. So like the Eco comes with a wrench so you can actually take the whole thing apart. And I remember the first time I took this apart, I was very confused. I was sweating. After several very frustrating, gut-wrenching attempts, I finally reassembled my TWSBI Eco. Pat on the back for me. But 8 months ago, when I first came across fountain pens, I just thought there's no way that I could get a fountain pen, because I don't trust myself to not inflict irreparable damage. My fear of potentially ruining a fountain pen was only magnified by the price tag. It was just such a huge difference coming from, again, something like a ballpoint or a gel pen. I mean, even something like a character inspired Pilot Friction or Uniball RE pen, and are just in terms of price a lot higher than something like a Bic ballpoint pen that you get at like Target or Walmart. So this was a jump for me. And then you brought in something like a fountain pen into the picture. This is not a good example, the Miniso fountain pen, because that's a fairly affordable fountain pen, and I think you could argue that it's cheaper or equivalent to some of the gel pens and ballpoints that I had at the time, but a TWSBI Eco is not cheap. I mean, if you're talking about it in respect to the world of fountain pens, it's definitely more on the affordable side, but that's not necessarily the perspective of someone who's just getting into fountain pens. Right now in my fountain pen journey, there's still sort of like this mental ceiling in terms of how much I think is reasonable to spend on a pen. That's gonna change. I'm not going to be ignorant to the fact that the more that I dive deep into this rabbit hole, I will feel differently later down the line. I've spent more on fountain pens than I thought that I would. Again, there was just like all this hesitation, this fear, this apprehension that was holding me back from investing in what I find to be one of the most amazing experiences that I've had in terms of stationery. I probably sound like a crazy person because at the end of the day it's just stationery, but fountain pens have become my writing instrument of choice, and they are what I reach for most of the time. Fountain pens are kind of rocking my world now. It's just funny and interesting to reflect back on those things that stopped me from getting into the fountain pen hobby earlier. So if you are currently feeling the same way, I hope that I can sort of put your mind at ease and say that yes, there is a little bit of a learning curve, and you might have to invest more into the experience than what you're used to, but I can confidently say that if you find the right fountain pen, it will be worth it. I would love to hear from you if you shared any of the same reservations about first getting into the fountain pen hobby, or if they were different. Let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to share it with a pen friend who you think might also enjoy it. I love talking about all things pen and paper, so if that's your jam, you should definitely stick around. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications, that way you don't miss any of these videos. I do my best to upload here every Thursday evening, so please take care until then. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.